Hey yo, what is up everybody, Chuck here, and welcome to perhaps the biggest day in Pokemon Go history. Mewtwo was officially revealed over in Japan about 16 hours ago, and earlier this morning, Niantic made a very big announcement. We're going to be covering everything from that announcement to Mewtwo in Japan currently, and to all of the questions and concerns and praise and everybody that has been tweeting at me. I got you. Because let's be real, when Niantic makes a big reveal like this, they're not there to answer your questions or take your concerns. That normally falls upon us, so I'm gonna try and be there for you, okay? Let's do it. So basically last night in Yokohama, Japan, although it would have been today in Japan because of the time difference, 3 Mewtwo raids popped up, only 3, and people had a chance to battle it. Upon successfully completing it, which by the way, I don't think it was too difficult to complete. I think groups of like 12 easily finished it. And upon completing it, they were given 50 plus Premier Balls to catch Mewtwo because they didn't want anybody to miss their first 49, which if you missed your first 49, let's be real, you don't deserve Mewtwo. So basically it was a 100% guaranteed catch rate and you had 50 balls to catch it. But you could only battle in one of the raids. So everybody who went to that event over in Yokohama, Japan, you probably walked away with the Mewtwo. Then this morning, Niantic released exclusive raid battles, which is how Mewtwo is going to be released to the rest of the world outside of Japan. Now, these exclusive raid battles have already caused a whole bunch of uproar on the internet. We're gonna get to that in a little bit. But basically, the theory is this. They will appear periodically throughout the day, week, month, not really sure. Super rare Pokemon like Mewtwo will appear at these raids. Now, unlike previous legendary raids, you have to be invited to the Mewtwo one. Now, to be invited to that Mewtwo raid, you have to have completed a different raid at that same gym where that Mewtwo is gonna be, and you have to have done it recently. Now, I've had a whole bunch of people ask me, what does recently mean? I don't know. Niantic didn't tell us. I'm assuming it doesn't mean you have to have battled at that gym like the day earlier, probably at some point in the past month. Otherwise, I don't know that I agree with this whole thing. Anyways, you will get your invitation with plenty of time to prepare for that raid. In Japan, I believe they were given 9 or 10-hour timers to complete the Mewtwo raid. Now, according to Niantic, the purpose of this is to allow us time to coordinate with other trainers in the area. If only we had a way to do it within the app, that would be perfect. But I do think this is a step in the right direction because giving people a notification that says, hey, go here, that's where the legendary raid is gonna be. I do think that is a small step in the right direction, so I'm proud of Niantic for that. So you get one clap. Good work. So, do we know when Mewtwo is coming? We don't. I'm assuming it'll be tonight just because that kind of follows the time frame of every Monday night they drop a new legendary, boom, 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 Mewtwo. And speaking of legendaries, all 3 legendary birds are now back in the game in raid for the entire month of August. So if you don't have one yet, like let's say you missed out on Articuno, you can go out right now and do an Articuno raid and catch one for yourself. That also means to everybody who does not have one yet and still complains, Chuck, I don't have one yet. This game is unfair. It should be geared towards just me. You got 2.5 weeks. Quit your complaining. Now, if you say you live in the middle of nowhere, there's nobody else that you can do raids with, join a Facebook group, drive to a big city, get a ride to a big city, bike there, run there. I drove through the middle of Nebraska and stopped at random rest stops and random tiny little villages, and there were raids happening there. No excuses. Get it done. Also, before you get angry at me for what I just said about how you should be able to make it happen, if you really want it, you'll get it. If you don't really want it, you'll complain about it. You now have 17 days, which is 17 free raid passes that you can use at a legendary raid. Plus 50 coins a day, that's like 25 raids that you can do for free as long as you keep Pokemon in the gym and have them turn over every single day. If you go 0 for 25 trying to catch a legendary, that's on you, bro. That's on you. That's not my fault. Don't blame me. Don't get angry at me. If you go 0 for 25 catching a legendary Pokemon, there's something wrong with you. Also, I forgot, Lugia is also included in this group, so Lugia will be available until August 31st as well, and after that point, we don't really know what's gonna happen. Now, the official Niantic release also says that other very powerful Pokemon will be appearing at exclusive raids. So Pokemon like Ho-Oh and the legendary dogs may appear, but they also didn't use the word legendary, which could hint towards the fact that Mew, somewhere down the line, may be available in raids. So that basically covers it. Mewtwo is coming, we don't really know when. It's been very vague about how the whole exclusive raid invitations are gonna work. This is exciting, everybody should be super hyped. Mewtwo is finally in the game. It's been 13 months, we've waited for this day for over a year. Everybody should be hyped, right? Not so fast. Like I said earlier, when Niantic reveals something big like this, they're not there to take all of the flack for it. That normally falls upon us, the YouTubers or other people who tweet frequently about Pokemon Go. In fact, a lot of people tend to take out their frustration on us, like it's us who make these decisions. It isn't. We don't get any control over this. So I had people tweeting me all of their questions and concerns and praise and everything having to do with this newest reveal, and I think it's time to address all those right now. A little warning here. If you're overly sensitive and you for some reason think the world revolves around you, you're going to find out after I read all of these questions that it doesn't. The world doesn't revolve around you. You shouldn't expect everything to go your way because it won't. Now that we have that covered, first one. From Dr. K9. I like the idea of the whole thing, but it's just a money-making scheme. If you want to participate, you pretty much have to do raids at every single gym in your entire city. Let me be the first to reveal to you guys that Niantic is not a non-profit. Niantic isn't Goodwill or the Salvation Army. They make money. That is their goal, along with basically everybody else on this entire planet. They're not here to give you a good deal or give you some free stuff just because you're friendly. They exist simply to make a profit. Just like McDonald's and Taco Bell and Wendy's and Arby's and Sony and Nike and Canon and Under Armour and Adidas. And that's not a bad thing. That's kind of what keeps this world operational. Now for the second part, if you want to participate in these exclusive raids, you supposedly have to do them at every single gym in your city. I don't think that's going to be the case. The way I see it is that they're going to be doing these exclusive raids at the most popular gyms in the city. So brainstorm a little bit. Go do a couple raids at some of the busiest gyms that you can think of off the top of your head in your area. So when the time comes, you may have an invitation waiting for you. Next one. From Reversal, who says, I hope your Mewtwo will be a Ditto. Next one from my buddy Prisma. He asked, how often will Mewtwo and the other exclusive raid battle Pokemon be spawning? Answer to that, I don't know. I assumed legendary raids were going to be very rare, like a couple a day. So I'm going to say the same thing about these exclusive ones because they are exclusive. So I would say in a relatively big city like the one I live in, 150,000 people, we may have 3, 4, maybe 5 per day. In a smaller city, maybe 1. In a city like Chicago, there's probably gonna be like 100. Will they cost an extra raid pass or is that the invite? That is where I am under the impression that it is going to be free. It's kind of like a reward. Hey, you've been raiding at these gyms all the time. Here's your free raid pass, come take our legendary. Next up from Joaquim, or Joaquim, could be Joaquim, I don't know. Do you think that Mewtwo is a tad bit overpowered? Easy answer, no, not at all. His max CP was nerfed yesterday, so it won't even eclipse 4,000. I think it tops out at like 3,970, and you can't use it as a gym defender. So where it would be overpowered would be as a gym defender, an absolute tank of a defender, and that's not going to be the case. And if you're worried about people taking down your gyms because they've got Mewtwo's, well, use some Pokemon that Mewtwo struggles against. Ah, see, now we're thinking. Next one, we've got a comment from Andrew, and he says, this whole exclusive raid thing makes it seem even harder to get a group of people together. And also from Elias, I don't like the idea of exclusive raids. It means less players will be able to battle. Why can't they be like normal raids? So we've got people complaining that Mewtwo is going to be too difficult to get. Newsflash. Mewtwo should be difficult to get. Let's be real, Mewtwo is kind of the king of Pokemon. Let me put it this way. Every single person watching this will react one of two ways after the Mewtwo exclusive raids are done with. They will either say, A, oh, Mewtwo is way too easy to get. I don't think that many people should have it. And the reason they're gonna say that is because they got one, but they didn't want the people next to them to get it. Or number two, Mewtwo was way too hard. I hate Niantic. This game sucks. I'm uninstalling it. And you can probably guess what happened to them. They didn't catch a Mewtwo, but they thought for sure that they deserved it, but not everybody else did, because had they caught it, they would have been number one who said, oh, it was too easy. Nobody should have it. So was it too easy or was it too hard? Oh, you just want one, but nobody else should get one. That's the problem we're having. Everybody wants a Mewtwo, but everybody also doesn't want the people next to them to have a Mewtwo because it makes their Mewtwo seem less rare. So had they released Mewtwo differently, like let's say in the wild or through eggs, you're always going to have people complaining. Either it was too easy to get or too hard to get because either they got it or they didn't get it. Next thing I would like to talk about are rural area players. And I know if you are watching this and you play in a rural area and you live on a farm in the middle of nowhere, you probably are not going to like what I have to say, but hear me out because it does make sense. First things first, if you live in a rural area, you are not part of the majority of the population. A majority of the population across the entire world and the United States in particular, because that's where most of you guys live, I know because I can see statistics. A majority of the population lives in urban areas. So for everybody who always says, they're forgetting about us, we make up 80% of the player. No, you don't. In America, somewhere around 65% of the population lives in urban areas. You can Google it if you don't believe me. Across other countries, that number is even higher. So unless you live in Africa, you've got to throw that excuse out the window. Number one, nobody in my area plays. I don't know anybody who plays Pokemon Go anymore. The game is dead, but I want to catch legendaries. Where can I catch them? Join your local Facebook group. Cities of all sizes have them. Somewhere in your city, somebody wants to play Pokemon Go. It's your job to find them. It's not Pokemon Go's job. Do you want to know how many people I knew at raids before I went to them? Zero. If there's literally nobody in your area, as you may claim that there aren't, go to the nearest big city. There are plenty of people that play in big cities. Now, if you don't think it's worth it to go to the biggest city, well, then you probably don't want the legendary very bad. I can already hear it now, but wait, that's not fair. Why should I have to sacrifice my time to go to a big city to play Pokemon Go? That's not fair. Now, although that 2 or 3 hours you may spend driving on a Sunday afternoon may seem like the biggest sacrifice you've ever made in your entire life, that's kind of the reason that people pay more to live in big cities. Take Chicago, for example. People may live there because their job brings them there, but also because there are concerts and performances and better food and more entertainment, better internet, better cell phone service, except for not really for GoFest. But people make a sacrifice to live in a big city. That sacrifice is money. So you could either sacrifice money to move to the big city or sacrifice time to drive to it. You gotta pick. Everybody makes sacrifices. Now this touches on my next point. We've got a comment from Tejas, or Tejas, I think it's Tejas, over on Twitter, and he said Niantic needs to consider the fact that not all people can spend money or travel to go catch Pokemon. So here's how the world works. There are goods and there are services, and in order to get those goods and services, you have to pay for them, because the people who provide those services and those goods need to make money to make a living. If you didn't have to pay for the goods and services, then nobody would work, because then there'd be no incentive. I think you guys get the point. If you are of age, get a job at McDonald's. I worked there for 5 years. Great place to start out. It'll teach you the value of money. If you aren't of age, offer to mow lawns or shovel sidewalks or anything. If you want something really bad, the solution is never to go on the internet and complain. It's to make the money to buy it. I mean, sure, I could show up at a Lamborghini dealership and just sit there and be like, this is unfair. I want that Lamborghini, but I can't afford it, so I'm just gonna sit here. But then there are other people out there who are working their tails off so they can buy those things. That's how life works. Now, of course, if you're 10 years old or 11 or 12 or 8 or 9 and you're watching this and you're like, Chuck, I honestly, there is no way I can make it to a legendary raid. I live on my parents' farm, literally in the middle of nowhere. I am 800 miles away from the closest city, in which case, God, I hope you move soon. But I have no way to make money. I don't have neighbors. My parents aren't gonna drive me 8 hours. In that situation, that sucks. I'm sorry, but it's good to learn at an early age that life isn't really fair. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of rural players who are awesome, and they comment on my videos all the time, and they're like, yo, I still play in rural areas, I'm level 31, I'm grinding it out, I still love the game. You guys are great, but there's a very tiny, tiny, tiny group of people who think that this game should just be based off of their lives, and it isn't. And they hate it. Quick, wanted to include this one. I just got this tweet from Frizzlefry, and here's what he had to say. Because it's fucking ridiculous, and you spelled ridiculous wrong, but I'll let this one slide. We couldn't even catch the birds when it wasn't invite only. Pokemon Go is just fucking ridiculous, once again spelled incorrectly. There's no E in ridiculous. Frizzlefry, I appreciate your very, very, very insightful input. It is ridiculous. If you're having a super hard time catching the birds, there's a really good chance that it's not Pokemon Go, it's probably your fault. You're probably not very good. And I hate to say it. I hate to be the one to break it to you, Frizzlefry, but you can't blame everything on everybody else. Now, the game is free to play. You can raid probably 25 times by the end of the month if you're an active player and you collect your daily bonuses and stuff like that. But if you really think the game is ridiculous, make money, buy Pokecoins, do more raids, and maybe you'll have better luck. And if that's way too far out for you, then don't complain. At this point, you're watching this video and you're either super angry at me because at some point I called out what you're thinking right now, or you're just like, hey, Chuck is actually right. Well, the point of this video is to kind of make the point that you can't make everybody happy. There is nothing that Niantic could have done to release Mewtwo to make every single one of you guys happy. They could have released it in the wild, but then you would have so many comments that are like, but wait, spoofers are gonna get 50 of them. That's not fair. They could have released them in eggs, but then people would be like, but wait, then I've gotta buy incubators. That's not fair. So they did them in raids, like they showed in their trailer for the game like a year and a half ago. But of course, some people are under the impression that it's simply not fair. It's too hard to get, but if they're able to get one, then it's too easy to get because other people got. Can't we all just be happy that we finally have Mewtwo? So I want to close with this. A final tweet from L over on Twitter. I think people need to be more appreciative with it. I mean, it's one of the best Pokemon of all time. Not everyone should have one. Nailed it. So I want to get everybody's feedback on this. If you enjoyed this video or you're just excited about Mewtwo being in the game and you kind of agree partially with some of the stuff I said in this video, give this video a thumbs up. Now on the other side, if you're completely distraught and you woke up with tears in your eyes because you just can't get over the fact that the world doesn't revolve around you, in which case you've probably already unsubscribed because you just found out and now you're angry at me, give the video a thumbs down. I won't be angry at you. I want to get a general sense for how people are feeling about this. I love you guys. If you enjoy Pokemon Go videos and you're hyped for Mewtwo like I am, subscribe. Turn your notifications on so you never miss an upload. Join that notification squad. I love you all. Take it easy. Peace. Oh, I hit the camera.